Hello everyone, Hachadino over here. As you always know, you can like my videos and subscribe in any of the guys that it's over there. Let's begin this. Remember, this is the heavily awaited Death Stalker Datamine. For once, I didn't go to sleep early, so I got in on the cool juice. It's only been some short hours since this dropped. I'm going to try to explain more or less what I think about the things. And remember, there has not been almost any discourse about this. So this is kind of the idea that I have without any talking to other people because they are now asleep slightly. So let's begin. The main mechanic, it seems I'm going to begin like from the middle because I was thinking and seeing it's this Death Stalker's Mark. Your assassination, your ambush from stealth. Remember, this is only true stealth. What does it mean? Likely, it does not work from sepsis. Remember, only subtleties has sepsis now until they kill it too because it's completely kind of useless. And vanish. That means it does not work with dance. So, on your first shadow strike or ambush from stealth, you apply 3 stacks of Death Stalker's Mark. When you spend 5 combo points, you spend a mark on that target, and then you deal some attack power as plague damage. This is kind of the thing that they are trying to make sub as an assassination work with. It's likely a mix of nature and shadow damage, likely, and increasing the next backstab or shadow strike by 10%. And here's the same mutilate backstab. It's like the only ambush are or mutilate. And now, what does that mean? It's like then we still play subterfuge, or maybe we don't. I don't know. But if we play subterfuge, that second shadow strike is going to be buffed by 10%. Or if it stays forever, you're going to get your first strike inside dance buffed by 10%. Now, this should be like something that it's all the way up. And then we have here different talents, bait and switch. Evasion reduces magical damage taken, and Cloak of Shadows reduces physical damage taken. This is kind of cool for various reasons. There was no reason to use evasion if you didn't have elusiveness on almost any fight, but now with this point, you get some free juice on evasion, and of course, the same thing if there was a fight where there was not any debuff or magic damage that you wanted to dispel, or even for once as a rogue, we have something to combat blitz. You get this 20% damage reduction, of course, apart from elusiveness, as you know. Now, clear the witnesses. As you can see, kind of, you have two things here. One is for assassination, clearly, Fan of Knights, and the other one is for subtlety with Shuriken Storm. Now, you deal extra shadow damage, and you generate 1 additional combo point. This is kind of good on 2 target situations because you can fill your combo points on 2 casts instead of 3, making it way better on energy management. Of course, on 3 targets, it's even better because you can use 1 builder and then a finisher. What does this mean to? This means that there is kind of a cool thing that we may use, actually not spending the starter mark, because remember you need 5 combo points, and maybe remember on some target counts you can use 4 combo points with no issue, so you can just keep getting those 4 combo points and using finishers. Of course, with shadow techniques you will eventually get 5 and it will go off, but it's still something like kind of free damage. Now this corrupted blood, it's kind of interesting because rupture as a subtlety was already doing a lot of damage. So now it will do even more damage. As assassination, it's kind of a maintain the buff. It gives you some things, it gives you energy. It doesn't do huge amounts of damage, but it's still a decent chunk of your overall power. This, of course, is something that we will like on long pulls, and it also helps on single target, of course. Now, Dark Knight. When you consume the final Death Stalker's Mark, you get energy, and unit eviscerate or envenom, gets a 100% critical strike chance, deals additional damage, and then applies 3 marks. What does this mean? This means that we actually don't run out of marks unless the target dies. Likely, if you focus the wrong target and it dies, you don't get any mark on any target. You have to banish, and you have to wait until the next pull. Kind of a cool, interesting thing that we may play around. Actually, I wonder how does this work with bosses with ads. Going to be a bit annoying. Now, Death's Arrival. Not much. Shadow Step can be used again. What does this mean? This means that Deathstalker may be one of the better specs, or let's say hero classes, to just go kick something and come back really fast. Or you can even, when for example on a small drone, you can keep being in melee and have a macro and then reposition with Shadow Step, and you can Shadow Step again to the boss. It has, let's say, some DPS increase potential. Now the Stalker mark, we already talked about it. Ethereal Cloak, not much. Cloak of Shadows increase 2 seconds. Those 2 seconds may be really good on some fights, but we still don't know, of course. Flensing Knives. I actually don't know if this is after you cast Slice and Dice, you get extra damage, or if you have Slice and Dice, you get extra damage. We will see. Remember, these talents are still not in alpha. It's only a datamine. It's likely that tomorrow or the next day they will be introduced into the alpha, and I will do another video after talking with people. Now here you get extra damage from Hurricane Storm, Crimson Tempest, Black Powder, and Fan of Knives. This helps a little bit Subtlety's AoE. That was one of its weakest points with Black Powder, but also Shuriken Storm is not a bad thing. Hand them down, auto attacked against marked targets, deal some damage. I don't know which one of the two is going to be used, or you can choose one of them. I'm actually not sure. It's likely that at first we will use this and then this, or maybe you get both. Quite an interesting thing with haste and mastery working. Now, after Death Mark expires and after Shadow Blade expires, you gain 3 seconds of 10% increased damage. Nature of Shadow. Actually, I don't know what to think about this. It's kind of weak, it seems. But maybe something that we use as sub. Remember, while we are doing all of our combos, actually Shadow Blades ends before we get the final secret technique inside our second dance after vanishing with Dust. But we still don't even know if we are going to play Dust. So now, Momentum of Despair. If you have done a crit, you increase the critical chance of everything here. It's likely that this will also affect Crimson Tempest, because otherwise it will be a little bit weaker for assassination, because they will only be Fan of Knives. So I don't know. Now, each time you consume a stack of Death Mark, the cooldown of Shadow Step is reduced by 3 seconds. This is going to be so good on many fights. Shadow Step is one of the strongest mobility cooldowns that we have as assassination as rogue. And of course, subtlety. Shroud of Concealment duration increased by 5 seconds. This will actually be quite big if there are any dungeons that need skips. Subtlety already has this 100% increased speed. If we pair this with the less duration, with Dust, if we play it, and also with this increased, we may actually help run dungeons quite faster, as we use this maybe on cooldown to get people use a super sprint. Singular focus, damage dealt to targets other than your marked targets deal 3% damage, take damage to your marked target. This is kind of the thing that we always wanted. Let's say it like Shuriken combo and bleed extra thingies. So what you are going to do is you are going to spread ruptures. They are going to be stacking the plague damage. You are going to be using then an eviscerate to get the marks down, and then use black powder. Maybe use other eviscerate when it only has one mark. You get the super proc. Then now symbolic victory. It's not much. Ship, extra damage of your next envenom. and symbols of death, extra damage, toughness, eviscerate, or black powder, kind of like rotten but for finishers. A little bit of a weak one, likely at the beginning, but this is everything that I wanted to talk about. Actually, went quite long, 10 minutes, but still, these are all of my thoughts. And if you kind of have other thoughts, you can put them in the comments. Usually, my comments are kind of lonely, so try to talk something and I can reply. And I will see you on the next video.